Greenwood Cemetery was opened in 1874. It was 12 years after the Civil War. So what we're finding is that we have, particularly around between the 1890s and maybe like 1915 or thereabouts, we have a large number of people being buried in Greenwood who were very influential in the growth and development of the African American community in St. Louis. Yes, it is a black cemetery, and that was the reason that it was founded, but this represents St. Louis history, period. You know, we were able to connect names of people who were formerly enslaved with their slave owners. We're finding out that we can trace the development of the black middle class. For example, up the hill we've got a grave site of a man named James Madison Monroe Stokes, who was one of the very first black letter carriers in St. Louis. So we put together just these little teensy pieces of information that I think would be lost if we weren't doing this. It's going to be very, very interesting when we're able to put together all of those little records, all those bits and pieces of information. So when people come to St. Louis, we've got another place that they can tour. This is going to be like Bell Fountain or Calvary or National Cemetery, any of those other places. Come out and learn the history of St. Louis, not just African American St. Louis, learn the history of St. Louis. We're at the point now that we've got so many headstones documented and visible that I can go down to the library now and take a name and go to the 1915 newspaper, for example, and see who that person was. I did that with 1919 and found a lot of information about a headstone that's up in the front of the cemetery, a guy who was a professor at Lincoln Institute long before it was Lincoln University. And Lincoln Institute, of course, was founded by returning Civil War soldiers, two of whom are buried at the top of the hill up there. So, you know, we're beginning to put together a lot of bits and pieces of St. Louis history. I think St. Louis is going to be very proud of this place.